Planet Earth is vast, and so are the changes we have caused in a lifetime. Through time, humanity has altered Earth's life support systems. The average global temperature of the planet has increased by about 1.7 degrees Fahrenheit since 1880. The climate system is changing rapidly. Carbon dioxide emissions are accelerating. Greenhouse gases levels are unprecedented in human history. Without deep emission cuts, it's likely that the Earth will cross the target of 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. The target set by international policies to limit the global mean temperature increase below 2 degrees. This could happen as early as 2050. Future generations are threatened by extreme climate risks from expected temperature increase. If emissions keep rising at current rates, the Arctic will warm faster than the global average. It's very likely that heat waves will occur more often and last longer, affecting agriculture productivity, water availability, and diseases distribution. Societies will need to adapt to face challenges from climate change, especially in regions that are least equipped to deal with these risks. The latest report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change states that it is very likely humans are the dominant cause of warming in the past 60 years. For a likely chance to remain below the 2 degrees, human societies are allowed to emit another 250 billion tons of carbon. Greenhouse gas emissions from the energy sector alone reached over 18 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent in 2012. Energy-related carbon dioxide emissions are expected to increase from 3.23 gigatons in 2013 to reach 4.3 gigatons by 2040. The current trends in energy consumption place Middle East economies among the least efficient in the world. Between 2004 and 2014, the Middle East total energy consumption grew by almost 65%. Its total carbon dioxide emission grew by over 62%. Oil-rich Middle East countries lead the way in terms of emissions per capita. Although these countries are relatively small geographically, the residents actually generate 2 to 10 times the amount of carbon dioxide emissions of the average global citizen. Around 75% of the total Middle East carbon dioxide emissions are coming from only 4 countries: Iran, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the UAE. Iran alone represents about 32% of total Middle East carbon dioxide emissions. Electricity and heat production represent 35.4% of total carbon dioxide emissions. 71% of its total electricity generation is coming from natural gas. Since 2004, Iran's primary energy consumption has grown by almost 50%. Oil and natural gas accounting for 98% of total primary energy consumption. For Saudi Arabia, its CO2 emissions are about 29.9% of the total Middle East. Most of its emissions are from electricity and heat production. Its per capita energy consumption is about 4 times higher than the world average. Since 1990, Saudi Arabia primary energy consumption has been growing at an average annual rate of 5%. UAE represents about 10% of total Middle East CO2 emissions. About 39.2% of total CO2 emissions are from electricity and heat production. Natural gas alone accounts for 48% of total UAE primary energy consumption, and 32% from oil. Kuwait has the smallest share among the 4. However, its electricity and heat production sector represents 70.5% of total CO2 emissions. This is mainly because 66% of its total electricity generation is coming from oil. The current consumption patterns and high energy intensity in the Middle East will continue to increase the region's share of the global CO2 emissions. How well Middle Eastern countries invest in low-carbon energy supplies and improve power generation efficiency will shape the future of their energy system. Such challenges underline the major role which the Middle East will play in achieving climate targets. After Paris and Marrakesh climate conferences, governments agreed on a long-term goal of keeping the increase in global average temperature to well below 2 degrees above pre-industrial levels. It has become a global essential to showcase progress and start the important process of turning the UN's Paris Agreement into a detailed blueprint for action. Countries are now urged to continue scaling up their financial contributions towards reaching the target of staying below 2 degrees. Although several Middle East countries have set ambitious goals to reduce their energy intensity and cut emissions, much remains to be done. The scale of change is based on decisions made now, which will shape the path below 2 degrees. Diversifying energy mix, reducing the reliance on fossil fuel resources, and increasing renewables share are all pathways towards reaching climate targets for the Middle East. It's a matter of collaborative efforts on a regional level. The Middle East and North Africa Climate Change Initiative, acting as one for one goal.